Joined live from Melbourne with Alon Cassuto, the CEO of the Zionist Federation of Australia. Good evening to you, 9 hours ahead of us.
Good evening, Marianne. How are you?
Doing well, and thank you for joining us. And again, I mean, we are all sorry watching everything that unfolded. It was just a horrific and a huge hit in the gut for the very robust Jewish community of Melbourne and also all of Australia. How are you holding up as a community now?
Look, Marianne, the community's shocked and devastated and heartbroken, but not entirely surprised. We've seen escalations over the past 14 months, and we've been slowly becoming used to this rising anti-Semitism, which is terrifying because, I mean, this community that was attacked, this act of terror, as it's now been called, is on a synagogue that has existed there as the center of the Adass community for over 70 years, a community that's mostly made up of Holocaust survivors who fled the burnings of synagogues in Europe, in 1930s Europe. And of course, we all know how that ended up. And so it's a terrifying and very triggering event. We had to see images of Torah scrolls being taken out of the synagogue, burnt. There'll be 5 Torah scrolls that need to be buried. It's horrific images, and of course we're grateful that no one was injured, but it doesn't really mask the fact that this is the worst attack that the Australian Jewish community has known, and it's come at a time where we've been crying out for stronger leadership. We've been crying out for stronger messaging and actions from our leaders, because for 14 months now, we've been seeing these radical elements really emboldened because of a lack of action and a lack of leadership in Australia. And so the community is heartbroken, but not surprised.
Right. And, I have lots of friends in the Melbourne Jewish community, and I know that, even it was percolating even as far back, as a time of COVID. So again, not surprising, especially people in the government. So some are blaming your prime minister that you just talked about. I mean, has he fueled this rhetoric?
Look, the prime minister has recently pledged $32 million in security measures for the Jewish community. He has appointed an anti-Semitism task force in the federal police to try and tackle these acts of terror. But it's all been seen by our community as small gestures too late, and certainly 14 months on, after we've seen weekly rallies that are calling to globalize the Intifada and saying that all Zionists are terrorists, when of course Zionist is being used as code word for Jewish. Because the vast majority of Australian Jews consider themselves Zionists.
Right.
And so the Jewish community feels quite abandoned in a sense, and a real vacuum in leadership from the federal government. And of course, we've seen the federal government move further and further away from Israel.
We were talking earlier about the Torah scrolls and the fact that, it was a synagogue built by Holocaust survivors. I mean, this is one thing that the world maybe, doesn't know. I know you guys are very, very far away from so many places, but it is the largest outside of Israel population of people that did flee the Shoah. So the history in that time, letting in Jews to see this shift has just got to be so painful, especially as we're dealing with the grandchildren and great-grandchildren of those survivors.
Yeah, listen, the Melbourne community and the Australian community as a whole is an incredible, incredible community. We've got brilliant schools and synagogues and community organizations and a real beautiful fabric and tapestry of Jewish life here. And it's existed since the beginning of Australia as a modern nation. So even before the Holocaust, but certainly post-Holocaust, these communities came alive. And the challenge with that is that second, third generation Holocaust survivors have grown up with the stories of their grandparents fleeing the ashes of Europe, seeking a better life. And we've had this beautiful golden era for Jewry in Australia that people are now fearing is drastically coming unraveled, and it's a sad reality. And so our community is unified, our community is strong, our community is not giving up on Jewish life in Australia. Certainly, we're fighting for it with everything we've got, as well as for our beloved connection with Israel. And we see the relationship and the friendship between Australia and Israel as something we have to fight for. And even in these challenging times, we're so proud of the fact that we've sent 500 young Jewish Australians to Israel on short and long-term Israel programs. We've got thriving schools. We've got beautiful celebrations of Jewish life. I just came now from a function from my old school, Mount Scopus College, where we had Tzipi Livni come and address a crowd of thousands of people. So and Eden Golan as well, the Eurovision performer. So there is still a beautiful Jewish life here that is worth fighting for and worth preserving.
All right. Thank you very much, Alon Cassuto, CEO of the Zionist Federation of Australia. Much appreciated. And we're there with you, even if we're several oceans away.